on tribals. So Armorica is an area about 20 kilometers by 25 kilometers in Brittany, which is the northwest part of France now. And this area, as per Professor Guriak, is something like what we can say, what we write down in books, but you put it on the ground. There are many, many megalithic structures from where you study many, many things. Maybe 7,000 years ago, maybe more, maybe earlier. And Dr. Okay, sorry. He is the Professor Serge Liguriak. He is a clinical psychologist, graduated in psychopathology from the University of Reims, which is itself in Brittany. Since 2006, he's also a manager of the association called Institute of Human Studies, Psychology, Art, and History Research. Since more than 40 years, he is studying the megalithic tradition, the megalithism, unknown tradition 7 years ago, carried out by an unknown people who appeared on the surface of the earth and later disappeared totally, forgotten by the memory of humanity. The megalithic people wanted to gather scientific, artistic, and technical knowledges and express in a big stone book, which is still there in Brittany, Armorica, in the west part of France. This book is 25 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide. It is written out of huge stones, standing stones, and dolmen that are referred to under the term of megaliths. And from the two Greek roots, mega means big, and lithos means stone. Now, his early work of this research group was starting another forgotten knowledge began to be revealed. It was the tribal art of India and some of its uses in painting, dances, and rituals. Now, Dr. Guriak, who was working with this group of students from Brittany, discovered Indian tribal art for the first time in 2010 at the Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Manav Sansadhan Museum of Bhopal. And ever since then, he has worked in many, many states in India: Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Rajasthan, Arunachal. Now you can see the hard work that he has done. He comes almost every year to India and goes around in the areas where he can find some megalithic structures. There are still megalithic which are existing in India, but we have forgotten. He travels from village to and find those stone structures around village. People don't know why they were built and who built them. He irremediably found himself driven back to the tribal art, within which he found elements of Armorica megalithic knowledge. Now that is what interests us the most. So we have to go into the details of this. Now in India, the remembering of this tradition is fortunately still alive. Now that's a very interesting part in a number of tribal practices. But the understanding of the meaning of these rituals, temple architecture, art, dances, music seems to be disappearing and has to be regained. Now, this is a very short introduction, but interestingly, you can see this is his house and a beautiful garden in Brittany, and he has designed this and constructed this purely on vastu of what he finds in India. He uses the architecture of the ground to pass on the laws of Mother Nature. India, where he came more than 20 times for his researches and delivered more than 60 conferences and exhibitions. So he has done a real remarkable job visiting India almost every year. Now he began 2000. Now, first lecture was in Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, which was in Amarkantak, and there's a long list of these universities who have been inviting him. And you can see this where I met him for the first time in 2030. You can see me, and also then Vice Chancellor Makhanlal Chaturvedi University Journalism and Communication at Bhopal. He was invited by Vice Chancellor Mr. Kutialaji. And you can see me also there, and here a beautiful, wonderful exhibition. You can see the presentation, and the press was there. This is the exhibition which was laid down for the people and scholars, and so many. It continued. Now he has beautiful slides and posters which are displayed whenever he visits, and it is very useful for the student. But now we have learned so much about it that everything is linked, and it is therefore linking India with Brittany too. This is the conference which I organized at Rajasthan University, Jaipur. You can see us in the university. So the university also are very interested, and it is a subject of history, a part of archaeology. So that is the kind of work he done. So the main aim of Dr. Guryak is to pass on this historic knowledge to the interested students and scholars to help the preparation of the future generation. And the most important aspect of this lecture is that it is connecting India with Brittany, France. It is connecting the European countries. That's the beauty of this lecture through megalithic structures, and that art and culture is still alive in India and Brittany too. So I welcome Dr. Guryak today for this lecture series, and I'm sure everyone will be benefited. Thank you very much.
Alors, il faut recréer le programme.
Du coup, il faut qu'il fasse l'écran partagé.
Oui. Je vais le faire. Oui, c'est toi.
OK.
Oui. On va laisser comme ça.
Ouais. Ouais.
Là, c'est bon, on peut y aller.
Normalement.
OK.
Pas de montre.
You can hear me? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can hear you.
So good. Namaskar. Thank you so much, estimated Major Mathur and Surendra. And many thanks for your invitation to this new webinar. Thanks also to all the people who have made these researches happen. And many thanks to all the people who are there, sharing this work relating to the memory and the endangered knowledge acquired by our ancestors, and which, in my opinion, we have to find back, because we will need it for us, of course, and especially for the future generations. As a matter of fact, one of this forgotten knowledge belongs to the megalithic tradition. Just a word, you will quickly observe that English language is not my mother tongue, but I promise that I will do my best. So, I have entitled this lecture, The Megalithic Tradition in Armorica, a high school of spirituality, comparative studies between megalithicism of ancient Brittany and heart of ancient India, focusing on tribals, and it's the first part. Comparative studies. On the left picture, you can see some engraved signs on a stone of the dolmen of Gavrinis in Brittany. And if you have a look at the right picture, you can see the same design, the same signs, which were on the arms of a tribal pardon woman which is in Madhya Pradesh. And in the next seminar, we shall discover that these two symbolical signs refer to the same question, the one of the essential identity of the human being, who I am. In the next seminar, I will explain the discussion with this lady. Just a preamble. As you presented me, I began to study the megalithic tradition in the years 1976 under the direction of my guru. I know that this word is not usual in Europe, but in India it is. It was Mrs. Helen Fleury. She was a woman who had a great knowledge about different traditions, Egypt, Islam, Middle East, and so on. And what is important, that she also practiced meditation, a special meditation based on a special position of the attention inside the body, and this inner experience she acquired allowed her to understand most of the symbols coming from a deep awareness of our ancients, such as riches, and passed on by them. This meditation, which in my opinion is missing to the most of European scholars. In this preamble, I also want to say that megalithicism for us is a huge revealed knowledge. Why? It means that when we began to study it at the end of the 1970 years, after our fieldworks, after the verification of archives, after the study of different comparative traditions, because you know that there are no written works about megalithicism, when we came back home to write up the results of our works and ideas at that moment, during several days, we had the impression that the understanding of the thought of the megalithicism was revealed and dictated from on high. Thus, we published 18 booklets about megalithicism. It means around 1,000 pages, but unfortunately, only 2 of them are translated in English. Maybe later more. Here are some of them. The first one, the red, is about Gavrinis, very important. The second is also about Gavrinis. It's a reproduction we have made by ourselves of all the engraved stones, almost 30 stones. The third peak is a tumulus, is more than 100 meters long. And for Indian people, maybe you can immediately recognize the same idea that the chariot of Surya. Then the blue one is a study about the question of time in the agglomerations of Karnak. The green one is called Sciences and Symbols, the dragon and the solar symbolism. Also, one booklet about sacred spaces, myths and structure all over the world. And the last one is an approach Megalithic Geography in English. Now, later, when my guru passed away too early in 1994, I continued this study And in 2007, as you told, I had the opportunity to visit Zoroastria Manaus on the Alaya Museum of Bhopal, the Museum of Mankind. It's there that I discovered the same patterns in the tribal art of India as in the one of the megalithic art. It was a big shock for a psychologist, and I was so astonished that it was the beginning of a research which still continues today. But if my first question, and the one of many scholars, was who was the first, India or Europe? I quickly discovered that this question had no meaning. Because what appears in the megalithic tradition is the expression of the knowledge of the laws of the universe and the link of the human being with these laws and their movements. And of course, this is not specific to the megalithicism, but is a way for the whole world where people of the bygone days tried to accord their life to the one of the heaven and of the great mother nature, such as in the animist spirituality, so far from the contemporary mental approach of nowadays. That explains why the patterns of Indian tribal art are the same as in megalithics. And this is probably the origin of the real Sanatana Dharma. So important. Nowadays, it seems that this approach of the megalithic phenomenon is not very common. But we have to say that studies the megalithicism not as a tradition, but only the material aspect system of its stones is like to study a book only from the section marks, the graphics, the measurement of the space between the lines, the paragraph, and who knows what, but without viewing that the knowledge may be inscribed inside, even, of course, if everything is coded. Now, before beginning the comparative studies between Indian and megalithic knowledge, we have to study the basis which megalithic people delivered to us. Here are some megaliths from Brittany. Everybody has heard something about megalithicism and has the picture of big stones whom nobody knows where they are coming from. In some cases, they heard about Stone Age, which in fact belongs to the most recent period of megalithicism, but has been exported everywhere in the world by the English people. The word megalithicism is made of two Greek roots. Mega means big and lithos means stone. That's all. This appellation, with no geographical origin, no contents, shows clearly how few we knew about the people who erected those stones. I say we knew because, as we will see, now we know many things. We have seen two pictures about megaliths from Brittany, but I want also to show megaliths from India, from different parts of India. On the round peak, you can see a very, very, very big place in Chhattisgarh, which is called Karkabar. Then, also in Chhattisgarh, it's a place which is not very well known because it's very dangerous, because lots of Naxalists. But his name is Gramino. I discussed with many archaeologists in India. They never heard about this place so important. We also have, on the left peak, some megaliths in Jharkhand. Name is Punkri Bowadi. You can see at the first plan, one megalith, then two, and on the background there is a small hill in same orientation. We shall see this importance. Then we shall go in Tamil Nadu it's a beautiful dolmen which belongs to the Todas tribe, and inside the dolmen there is an Inuit symbol on the bottom stone. Here, close to you, dear Surendra, it's in Rajasthan, beautiful megaliths with very open place. And on the below stone, it's below picture, sorry, it's interesting because on the left peak, there is a medallion on the background. You can see these rock paintings. And this place shows the continuity between rock paintings and megalithicism. Now, let's go in Karnataka. The three menhirs of the left part of this slide are still worshipped as gods. The one of Mumbaru is in an enclosed construction, and he is like a sheep. Also, the one of Erdal in the middle also worship. And at Baise, this menhir from which a tree seems to come is also a god. I have forgotten his name. And close to these places, we were happy to make this discovering with the students of the school of Nilaskal. And under, it's a full field of so much dolmens in a place which is called Rajon Kolor. This place is also in Karnataka. Maybe you have heard about it. His name is Aire Benakal. It's very interesting because can you imagine that this place contains around 400 dolmens? On the way which leads at the dolmen place, and we have to climb more than 2 kilometers, and it's very difficult to go. We meet many rock paintings. And also, I wanted to show that in the surroundings, some remains of an intense spiritual and ritual life. You can see at the bottom, the right peak is the one of a cobra inside the grave, and we can imagine the ritual which was there. And under, it's a painting of a moon calendar. This one is very impressive. After this small survey of some Indian megaliths, we can feel the reverence of the people of this village from Orissa. It was at the end of the annual agrarian ritual around the dolmen, which they protected by a concrete construction. I think that there is no more comment to make to this wonderful peak and to the attention of these people of the village. Now, if you want, let's come back to Britain. Discovering the megaliths of India on the past peaks, we used this well-known denomination of dolmen, menhir, and we could add cromlech. But what is the origin of these names? These names are coming from a language which is the language of Brittany, different from Britain. We shall see soon why Brittany is so important for the megalithic tradition. On the peaks, you can see that Brittany is a small territory of around 30,000 square kilometers. It's almost as big as Belgium or Switzerland. You can see also on the below peak that till the year 800, how was the link between Brittany and the empire of Charlemagne, maybe Carlos Magnus. What I want to say is that Brittany has its own language. its customs, a very rich legendary, very rich, an architectural patrimony very ancient, its own music and dances, and so many megaliths, which seems to be there stuck on its land for the eternity. But in 1532, by the powerful of the world, just like in many other parts in the world, and Indian people understand what I say, Brittany became a part of France. But I repeat, its culture is very specific in front of the one we can find in France. Let's discover what was the behavior of the French government regarding to the Breton language. In 1831, the prefect is a high-ranking civil servant who represents the states, who represents the France. Here is what he wrote. We have to take extreme measures to favor the impoverishment, the corruption of Breton language, and prevent people from a village to another to make themselves understood, so that they will be obliged to learn French. We have to destroy completely the Breton language. Only 200 years ago. In 2018, I have given a lecture about this topic at the Indira Gandhi National Tribal University of Former Contact in MP during an international seminar using endangered tribals. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? In this lecture, I try to demonstrate how the mother tongue is correlated with the personal and essential sense of its own identity. And it's only in the 1950s years that this culture found a new rebirth because of its musician, such as this man, Alan Stibel, his father and friends. But still nowadays, the French government is not keen to develop this language, which is spoken by around 200,000 people. But let's come back to our topic. What is the link between these words, dolmen, menhir, and cromlech, and the Breton language?
Wow.
On this peak, there is a table. This is the English name, but the Breton name is Dol. Under, you can find in French, in pierre, in English, a stone, and in Breton language, armain. Under, there is a long door. Same in French, but in Breton language, long is here. And on the below slide, there is a curved line, which in Breton language is called krom. And now you can see how the megalithic structure are called. There is a dolmen, it's a table made with a stone, dolmen. Here is a long stone in Breton language, menhir. And last is a structure, a curved circle, which everywhere we call cromlech. Lech means a stone. Hein?
Tu sais, c'était le danger que ça disparaisse. Est-ce qu'on tente quand même un petit peu et on prend une image? Et on fait ça finement, en fait.
Ok. We shall try to change the slide of the guest speaker.
अरे माउसरे चश्माटा से ये करे चैनल दिखा जी बोल जी ये छोटा दिखा हम
Il n'y a rien.
लैपटॉप पे दिखा जाता है
T'étais là. S'il voit tout Aujourd'hui, apparemment.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
No, we can't
Huh?
see this.
Huh?
We cannot see the slide. No, we can't see.
It is black screen now.
Okay, okay.
Mais là c'est le quoi?
Okay.
Now we can see. Yes.
Okay.
We can see the slide now.
Ok. Et la photo de.
Oui,
C'est pour ça.
c'est bon.
Tu reprends comme
Là,
ça.
ça n'a pas bougé.
Bon, mais t'as pas changé la taille du speaker?
Toi, t'as besoin?
Non, mais tu dis
Ah
que.
non, c'est parfait.
Ok.
On va sortir des autres.
Vai na Gangurji, kon?
Ok.
On va faire les emojis.
Aरे से घर का पुट भाई पूरा दिया करे
We can go on?
portal है ना
लक्ष्मीकांत जी आप म्यूट करिए, आपका ऑन है माइक, सबको सुनाई दे रहा जरा.
Okay. So I was showing the importance of Brittany by the name of the megalithic structure all over the world. Of course, it exists several other parameters concerning the reason why Brittany had been chosen to start up the megalithic tradition in 5000 BC. We know that the Neolithic Revolution has been a decisive moment in the history of humanity. But if this revolution happens in the Indus Valley 6 or 7,000 years BC, in Brittany it happens only around 1,000 or 2,000 years later. That means around 5,000 years BC. And many comparative things between megalithicism and Indian culture let's imagine that the people came from the east, crossing the whole Europe and stopped along the seaside in Breton Armorica. To be clear, in Armorica you have the word more, and more means the sea. Because of course they could not get further, it was America after. And also because they may meet the remains of an ancient knowledge. Let us discover what was this knowledge they discovered on the seaside of Europe. They met another population who lived there at the Mesolithic period and already practiced a spiritual life. We are talking about the graves found at Teviek. You can see the place, now you can see Brittany, you can see the islet of Teviek, and later we shall see all the details of this place. A grave in Teviek with two human skeletons between 5,600 and 5,300 BC. This grave, you have a peak, was a pit arranged with pebbles. The body of the deceased was dressed with very rich ornaments of seashells, their legs folded, an ornament made with horns of deer, and you know that it's a symbol of death and resurrection, was put on two graves. The body was sprinkled with ochre, and different objects were placed on it, especially big spikes made of bones of animal, dog or boar, wild boar. That was at the Mesolithic period, and the people who practice this ritual, of course, they have a special knowledge which people coming from the Indus Valley met. Megaliticians also observed several topographic and geographic particularities in this area. We shall discover them as we shall go along with our study. And it's the gathering of all these elements which allows to start up the tradition and megalithicians began to organize their life according to the events and its laws in a science called astrogeometry. Well, in the title of this lecture, we used the words high school. Let's now discover what was this school which a megalithician installed and its program inscribed directly on the ground by big stones of megaliths. Now we are familiar with these words. Nobody knows when this science has been forgotten, but it is sure that 40 years ago, when we began this study, all the monuments were damaged and abandoned. All were open and were just about to disappear from the memory of mankind when we tried to understand this knowledge. And what we found was beyond all we could imagine. Let us discover slowly the main chapters of this big book. As Major Matur told, it's 25 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide. It has been written 5,000 years BC between the Quiberon Peninsula, you can see on the pic, and the Gulf of Morbihan. You can also see this south part of Brittany. From west to east and from north to south, there are three main places located from the peninsula of Quiberon to the Gulf of Morbihan. You can discover Erdeven and Karnak for the study of time during night and daytime. Then Locmariaker to study the space, and Gavrilis, where the students could receive the impressions of the engraved signs, which we can see on the below peak of some stones of the corridor just before the entry into the chamber. We shall give many details in the next web seminar if you are interested. Now let's discover the main structures of this big book. When megalithic people wanted to engrave in stone his knowledge, his beliefs, his faith, Sanatana Dharma, he had to find a place that met its requirements of different nature. Thus, he spots in the area stretching from Quiberon to the Gulf of Morbihan many natural places which were perfect for carrying out observation. The first observation place is that long stretch of flat land oriented south-north like a spine, the Quiberon Peninsula. Beyond this point, in the north direction, it was indeed possible to spot natural mounds, to carry out measures, to sketch out the main lines of the grid layout, which we will discover now. On the day of summer solstice, 21st of June, we could see from the Manemeur, you can see on the pic, located on the Quiberon Peninsula at the below of this dorsal spine, the sun rising eastward on the hill of Locmariaker. Locmariaker means Loc Maria Care. Loc is a place, Maria is the mother of Jesus, and Care means beautiful. We shall also explain why this name. And this is where Ergra, the world's largest menhir, now broken by the stupidity of men, was erected, the Greenwich equivalent at that time. This menhir will be at the heart of an area, carefully measured based on the observation of movement of the stars, especially the solstice. And it's the study of this holy space, which will be the second part of our intention. From Ergra, same day, June 21st. The direction of the setting sun now indicates the location of a place called by the same name, Gramino. It's a small village which we discover. No megalith, only the name of the place which still remain in the memory of the land. And this point, Gramino, is the center of a circle that encompasses the alignments of Karnak. I remember that the measurement of the alignment of Karnak is 4 kilometers. Magistral astrogeometry system for calculating time, a true calendar of stones. Calculating time means calculating year, calculating months, calculating days. Then, from Gramino, it is possible to spot another place buried underwater now. Close to Tiviek, I explain you the graves with the spiritual lives which we found in the Mesolithic period. This place is the center of a second circle, exactly similar to the first one, and it includes the alignments of Erdeven. I did not put them on the peak because it's too small and I don't want to put too much things. The alignments of Erdeven are the projection on the ground of the movement of Ursa Minor in the night sky at the time. I will also explain this. And the layout of the alignment of Karnak is based on observing the movement of the stars over a period of 40 days before or after the equinox. This will be our third study. And you could see how 40 is a very important number. Now, from Ergra, just at the east, you can see Ergra on the peak. Just at the east, at 4 kilometers, a small island in the Gulf of Morbihan. It's Gavrinis. Gavrinis is the sacred temple, a jewel, a real jewel of prehistory. And all over Gavrinis, with this circle of 4 kilometers of radius, which permit to Gavrinis to beat like a heart their other monuments. You can locate it. Small mound, Tumulus of Tumiak, the cromlech of Kagonan on the Ilomwan. And the study of Gavrinis will be our fourth study. All this structure broke down for seminar make up the grid layout at the origin of the megalithicism. And then you can locate Ergra on the peninsula of Quiberon on the Gulf of Morbihan, just below the word thought. We discovered that it's the whole Brittany which was measured and cut into a vast meridian system. Meridian means measurement of the day. Meri measure, dian, dia, day. To allow the people to act their life in accordance with the movement of the celestial bodies. I will not show again this peak, but you have to memory it and especially to memorize this geometrical figure, which is 100 kilometers, 134 kilometers, 168 kilometers. These numbers, little by little, we will understand where they are coming from. Okay, thanks for attention. I hope it's not too much and that you could discover the beginning of the megalithic tradition.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Well, how do you connect them with the Indus Valley megalithic structure with the structure of Brittany? That I don't understand. How could you?
Yeah, I understand. I am sorry because Major Matur told me to go slowly in megalithic. And this I will explain only in the next web seminar.
Yes.
Because,
Can you stop sharing your video, please? Stop sharing your presentation so that we can see you in the middle.
Okay.
Stop sharing your presentation.
We are doing. Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead with your question, sir. Please go ahead. Please go ahead with the question. Please go ahead.
Sir, it is actually amazing to know the megalithic structure of Brittany and the Indus Valley, and how they are existing, and they are worshipped, and they are having mystic value also. And in your language, the local dialect, local language or dialect, whatever you say, they speak of whatever you speak in your language of about megalithic structures. It's quite interesting, and it speaks of certain, of course, the very big stones worshipped and having very beautiful pictures and stories, and they're somewhere engraved, somewhere picturized by, from mouth, they spray the color through hands, palms. The story of Ravana Chaya is there also in Odisha, in Keonjhar district, Ravana Chaya. So this is quite interesting that they exist. But relation, how could you relate? I could not understand that megalithic age and megalithic stone.
I can tell that we discover some things because some names which still remains in the land, because French government could not destroy this. They try to change, but we can find, for instance, I explain you the alignments of Erdeven. Maybe you remember on the pic. Erdeven is coming from two Breton roots also, which are Ars and Ven. Ars Ven gave Erdeven, and Ars means the boar, and Ven means white, the white boar. That is the plow, Ursa
Major.
Yes.
Okay.
This is an example, but we will discover little by little many other examples in the language, which is not a dialect, because now it looks like a dialect, because the French wanted to destroy it, but it's quite different from French, and I don't know what is the origin of this language.
So let me give you a little brief.
Thank
this
you, sir.
subject. Yeah, this subject is very interesting, and so I requested him to go very slow. So this is the first lecture, and it will be followed by many more lectures to understand this subject. And it's very interesting because I visited these structures myself, and though since it is the introductory lecture, there are many structures which where you can, even today, you can predict the dates of our festivals, the Hindu festivals. Now, those structures, we are going to pick up that subject later on, but it is just an initial introduction, and how complicated you can see making this even today, like in we have Shivalingas, 12 Shivalingas placed in a different places. Why they were placed on those places is very tradition. And similarly, many temples at different places. Why they were placed, why they were constructed on those grounds. We are going through these megalithic structures. Why are we putting a temple? Why those ancient temples were built on that exact place is itself a question. Now we are trying to find out from these megalithic structures, and whatever study has been done by the scholars, the importance of these stone circles. There is a kind of energy there, and that is a neutral energy. When you go to this stone circles, your magnet doesn't work there at all. It swings 360 degrees. So these are very important structures which are now, you can see, still existing in Europe, in many countries, like even in Britain you find Stonehenge, in Ireland you find the New Grange, Tara, so many of them are there. Why they were placed on those places, which Dr. Gudek tried to make us understand, but we have to go into the depth, and it is a great work of our scholars. They should visit those places, and you will find so much of connection with India. I have done this study myself, and I found so much of connection in India. The Stonehenge, the megalithic structure in Brittany as well as in Ireland, we are finding the entire Hindu calendar there. The dates are matching, the Panchang is matching. How it is happening? Why it is happening? Why the festival dates are coinciding exactly on the same day? Surprising, with matching with the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. So that's the beauty of this structure. That means the origin of our festivals begin with such kind of observatories, and it is linked with the the path of the moon and earth, and those scientists in those areas even today are publishing those articles, and they are all matching with our Hindu lunar calendar. So we are going very slow, but you can ask questions again. You are welcome. Please raise your hand if you have any questions to ask.
Permit me, I want to say something about the Shivalingua, because it's a symbol which I like very much in India. I explained you that the main aim of megalithic people was to respect the necessary link between our heart and the heaven. And how can you do this if you are not put in a special verticality inside yourself, between your body and between your head? And for that, you have a vertebral column, right? And I show you the place of the peninsula of Quiberon, and the first observation came from the bottom of this vertebral column, from this long flat. And I have been astonished very often in India when I wanted to go till the Santo Sanctorum, as you call the center of the temple, and at each time, what was the secret of this place was a Shivalingua. And that is the importance of the verticality. But if you don't practice meditation, you cannot understand what I say. I wanted to say that. I hope you understand.
Any questions, please raise your hand. Any questions, please? We'll be having many more lectures on this. This was just an introductory lecture. And if you want us to repeat this lecture for any university or college, you are welcome. We can organize it for you because this is very important. It directly connects India with the Europe. It directly connects India with the Europe. And especially a very important subject for the students of history and scholars of history, as well as the Sanskrit scholars. Very important subject that it connects India and Europe. Directly it connects. Any more questions, please? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Guria. We are very, very grateful to you. And I find that although I have visited those megalithic stars, but every day learning something very, very new from you. Every day. It is something which is a very specialized subject, and not very many people will understand unless they listen to you several times. One has to listen to you several times to understand, and one can only realize the importance once you visit those places on the spot. Fortunately, many of them have been closed by the government. I tried to visit some megalithic structures, they have been locked up by the government. And there is a misinformation by the tourist guides also that they are burial places, but actually they are not burial places. They are observatories, they are sacred places. The construction is so sacred and so minutely calculated. It is a wonder from where did they bring these stones. The stones are so huge that they are not found anywhere near the site. How did they carry those stones? How did they build it? How did they carve those stones? And how exactly it is aligning on summer solstice or a winter solstice is a mystery. Can you imagine 7,000 years ago? So it's a wonderful subject to understand. Thank you very much, Professor Guriak. Thank you very much. We are very grateful to you, and we'll come back to you on your next lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Namaskar.
Namaskar. À bientôt. See you soon.